All right, so recording has started. I'll share my screen. I'll go through the lectures once again, just review and some examples. And please remember that next week there'll be a lot of quizzes and practical sessions. So I want you to be ready. And since this is very important, I will say it in Arabic also. الأسبوع القادم راح يكون عندكم اختبارات وأسئلة كثيرة مطلوبة منكم، فإنكم تكونوا جاهزين وقارين المادة كاملة، وراح نعمل ريفيو. أوكي، بتكونوا جاهزين إن شاء الله للاختبار الفاينل. So I'll start with the function. I'll share my screen also, not to forget this. All right, so we'll start with the functions, okay? Then after the functions, we'll talk about the arrays, and after we finish the arrays and pointers, we'll go back to the previous lectures. I prefer to delete this, so we'll start over again. Okay, so the functions, as we said, it's very important. By the way, it's the function is very important part of your course. Now, why we need functions and how to use them, and what are the main features of the functions? Actually, let's, I think, all right, the function allows the programmer to modularize program. What's the meaning of modularize? It means instead of having a program, a code, let's suppose that you have this code with thousands of instructions, 1, 2, 3, up to 100, for example, 1000 even, okay? It's not easy to follow any error or to debug the program. For example, if you get an error here, it may affect the next instruction. So the best way is to modularize. Modularize means dividing the program into modules, all right? So I'll be having more than one part. All of them will construct the program. So this is the idea of modularization. And for sure, you will study this in software engineering, I guess. Yeah, software engineering, how to divide the problem into small sum problems. So here is with functions, I will achieve this modularization. Also, this is the main idea, and it will reduce the redundancy of the code. What's the meaning of redundancy? For example, you have code, you use it usually. I will remind you with this example. Okay, consider the following code, which reads 3 integers and prints their sum. All right. If you can see here in this code, everybody can write it. I'm sure if I ask you not to write it, you will write this code easily. But if you can see here, this part has been repeated 3 times, right? This is the first time, this the second, and the third time. 1, 2, 3. So this is called code redundancy. Okay, this is called code redundancy. It means repeating the same code once, more than once. Now, suppose that if I want to change the I here, an integer, to capital integer, which is not, by the way, it's not important in this example, but it's important in other examples, all right? Or to add space here, then I have to come and change this to I, then go to the next one and change it to I, go to the third one and change it to capital I, and do the same thing more than once. Suppose that you have 10 or 20 or 100 repeated code. So this is the drawback of code redundancy. So what to do? Instead of repeating the code again and again, I will put it in a function. Okay, let's call it read underscore integer. By the way, you cannot put space. That's why I put it read integer. Inside this read integer, okay, I will put this cout, enter, etc., and cin, and return, of course, here integer x, and return x. So this is the code. Instead of using this, I will just call the function. So if I want to change, for example, here the I, if I change it here, it will be reflected everywhere. So this is just a simple example. There are a lot of more complicated examples that we can talk about, but this is the idea of code redundancy. So whenever you have a code that is repeated and used frequently, then you should. It's recommended. Of course, it's not mandatory. You can't keep it like this. Nobody will tell you this code is wrong. But as a programmer, you need to convert it to a function. Now, what's the redundant code? Can we write it only once and use it multiple times? Function will answer this question. So this is what we are talking about. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Now here is important. I just give me 1 second to delete the comments. Okay. All right. Also this one. So. All right. So let's get back to the discussion, and we were here. Okay. Now you have very important thing here. We have something called local variable and parameters. What are the local variables and parameters? Suppose that you have a function, for example. All right. See, I have declared integer x inside the function. Okay, so this is called local variable. That means only here you can use it. Outside you cannot use it. You may ask me and say, okay, but you used it here. No, this is different variable because I have here I declared a variable with the same name again. Okay, so local variable is the variable that is declared inside the function, or even inside the main function. This is a function, okay, inside a function, and cannot be used outside the function. So if you use it directly here, you will get an error telling you that this variable is not declared. You are using some variable which is not declared, all right, or it has different meaning. So this is the very important principle. You may ask, or you may think of, what if I want to declare a variable that can be used everywhere without redeclaring it? So you have to put it here before any function, outside the function. For example, if I define integer g, then when I use g here, it will be correct. When I use g here, if I say g equal 5 here, then g equal 5 here for sure. Okay, because it's a global. This is called global variable. All right. Now this is the difference between local variable and global variable. Local variable can be used, and it's none only inside the function it was declared inside. It cannot be used outside the function. The global variable can be used anywhere with the same value. Okay. So this is the difference between local variable and global variable. How about the parameters? Now, for any function, for example, even in mathematics, if you remember, you were writing y of x equal x squared plus 2, or this is called f. Usually we call it f of x, okay? And we denoted this as y. So f of x equal x squared plus 2. So if you put f of 1, that means 1 squared plus 2, right? Sorry, alhamdulillah. Okay. F of 2 equals 2 squared plus 2. So here you can put any parameters. This is called parameters. So the parameter is the argument that you pass to the function, all right, to replace the variable. So in this case, this is in mathematics. How about in programming? Also, in programming, we have the same thing. We have parameters to pass, but it depends on the nature of the function. And that's why we divided the function into 4 types. OK, now, the prototype of the function or the function definition is create customized function to take in data, perform operation, and return the result. So the function usually, these are the main or the 3 important parts of functionalities of any function. It takes data. Okay, I have this is the main. Okay, and I have some function called f1 of x. So what will be done here? Main will send values or parameters to send x to f. And f1 will perform some processing like x equal x plus 1, okay, and return the result. So in every system, just like any other system, input, processing, output. But here the input comes from the main and the output goes to the main function. Okay, the prototype here is return type value, function name, and parameters. So these are the 3 things that, of course, here is the contents of the function or the code. You have to ask yourself about any function. You have to ask yourself a few questions like, what will be the type of the returned value? What name should I give the function? For example, of course, nobody will tell you this name is not correct, because you will not get an error in all cases if you follow the convention of naming. But suppose that you have a function call to find the maximum and you call it minimum. It's okay. From the programming point of view, it's correct. But as a user, will you identify the function? It will work in the reverse, or it will do the opposite of what's required. Or you may call a function XYZ, and inside you write any code you want. So what does XYZ mean? What is what does it do? All right. That's why the name, although there will be no errors, there will be no syntax error, unless of course you put space, like put a and space 1 or use at or these things, they will get error. But otherwise you will not get any errors. Okay, so here you need to also to ask yourself about the returned value. What variables or what values will the function return? Add parameter list. What the parameters that I need. Now, let's take this example. Before writing it, if I ask you to write a function to find the square of a number, All right. So here, the three questions have been answered in the question itself. So the name, I will call it SQ. It's up to you. SQR. Capital letters, small letters, up to you. SQR, it's quite clear that we are talking about square. Now the second question is, what parameter should I forward to this? Of course, it needs one, X. What's the type of the parameter that I will pass? Of course, from the question, if it's required to send a number, that means any number, any type is all right. Here, integer, okay? But in some cases, you need to send double, okay? Now inside, return X times X, right? Now if I multiply double by double, then the result for sure will be double. Then the type of the function should be double. See, I don't want you to come directly and start writing the function, writing the code. You just think of it like this. Take it from different point of view, from different angle. Okay, so let's go back to our previous example in which we repeated this one. We entered, or we used the same code to read 3 integers, and we repeated the code 3 times. Now, I'll define a function that read integer, okay, in which integer x, we've written this, enter integer and cn x and return x. You may think like it's even longer than the original one. The original one was only C out and Cn. Now we made it a bit longer, but when you use it several times, you will see the difference. Here, also return X. The name, it's up to you. You call it any meaningful name, like read int is okay. Do I need any parameters to send? No, I don't need parameters, and it will return the value of X, which is integer. And again, this is one of the easiest thing. It's very easy to understand, but I don't know why most of the students always do it wrong. Now, the type of the function. Type of the function is absolutely easy and important. Here, if you are returning X, so what's the type of X? The type of X is integer, then for sure this should be integer. Okay? Now integer x, y, z are, then x equal read integer. When I say read integer, it will go there, call the function, execute the instructions, and return x and give it to x. Y. By the way, again, this x has nothing to do with this x. This is different. Why? Because they are local variables, right? So there will be no error, no mistake, no problems at all. Now y. Read integer, again, it will go there, it will read x and return it to y, and I repeat it 3 times and so on. So here I defined a function that can be called whenever I need to read an integer. Okay. Now the types of the function. Mainly there are 4 types of functions, not mainly, these are the 4 types that are available. The first type does not return any values and does not take arguments. Like if I ask you, for example, write a program that say hello when it's called. That's it. I don't send any, I call it, yes, but I don't send any arguments and I don't get any result. The second type is the argument that returns value but doesn't take argument, just like exactly this one. Integer, read, int. Okay, here I didn't pass any argument, but I got value from the function. So this is the second type. The third type is the function that doesn't return values, but it takes arguments. Like if I ask you, for example, write function that takes an integer and prints it to the screen. Okay, so it will not return any argument. The fourth type, which is most commonly used, is that take argument and return argument, just like the square that we did. We say integer sqr of integer x and return x times x. So in this case, it takes argument, takes x and return value. All right. So these are the main four types of functions. Here are the types of the function. No need to go through them. We'll go through them very fast. So the first type is that doesn't take any argument and doesn't return any values. So it's just like typing something to the screen. The second function that takes argument or parameters. By the way, arguments and parameters are the same meaning, all right? But it does not return any values. The third type is doesn't take argument and return values, and then the fourth type is taking and return. Here, all the time you need to call the function, okay? And usually we call it by writing its name. Example, write a function that prints the message welcome to C++ when it's called. Suppose that I don't have this function. Let's think of this function like this. What the function will do, just to write or print welcome to C++. That's it. Do I need to pass any parameters? No. Then the three questions or two questions. Parameters, do I need to pass parameters? No. Will I get any returned value? Also no. Then it's of type 1, which doesn't take parameter, doesn't return any value, but it will write a message to the screen when it's called. So here void, why it's void? Because it doesn't return any value. So void, say welcome and C out welcome C++. That's it. When you call it here, you don't need to say x equals say welcome. Okay, why? Because it doesn't return any value or anything. So this is not correct. And also you cannot say, say welcome of 5. This is also wrong. Okay. It's a function that when you call it, it will print some message and that's it. Okay. Example, write a function that receives an integer from the main function and prints it to the screen. Let's think of this function. I have this function receives an integer from the main. Okay, it sends value, but it will send it to the screen. It will print it to the screen. Will not return anything to the main function. Okay, from the question is prints it to the screen. Okay, so what will be the type? The type should be void because it returns no value. Print integer, the name, I selected it to be print integer. Of course, here, if you remember, this code is the same like this code, but I just wanted to share with you two different ways of writing functions. You might find it in textbooks. Here, you need to write it like this. If you want to define the function after the main function. Okay, here after the main function. But here before the main function, so you don't need all this process. I would recommend using this one. Okay, this is just to let you know how to use it. So here I defined a function print integer of integer x. That means I want the main function to send it to the function a value. See out the integer is x and that's it. Now print, if you can see here, there's a parameter in the function. I passed value, but I didn't write it like x equal print because this is not correct because I don't have return here. I don't, and the type is void. Okay, So in this case, you don't need to return any value or to get any value. This is the second type. The third type, write a function that reads an integer from the user, return to the main from the user and return it to the main function. This is the same previous question, to read and return. If you can see here, also we don't have parameters, and here integer a equal rd integer. Why we have this a equal? We didn't have it in the previous function because this type is integer. I have to declare an integer variable and equate it with the function. Okay, write a function that takes, and remember again, just to remind you, takes means there will be some parameter to be passed, okay, to the function. Even when I say takes value from the user, that means cin and cout should be, cin should be there. All right, so takes two numbers and return the sum of the two numbers. So I'm thinking of it like this. I have a function that needs two numbers, x and y, finds x plus y, and give me the result. Okay, so from this, I can imagine that the function needs two parameters and will give me one output or one returned value. How about the name? Add or sum will work. Add or sum. Okay, so that's why I declared integer, sum of integer x, integer y. Why it is integer, not double? Think of it, because here I'm adding integers plus integer. So integer plus integer always is an integer, well, and the returned value is an integer. The other thing which is very important in the exam and in asking questions, like here, I have to declare a variable of type integer. Okay, I cannot say just a equals sum of 2, 3. It's impossible. All right, I have to declare the variable. If you want to do it in a different way, you can write it like integer a, and then say a equals sum of 5, 7. Okay, that's correct, because I'm declaring it. Or you can use it also directly. You can just cout, write cout sum of 5, 7. It will print the result. Okay. Okay. The three functions together. Now, after we wrote the functions, let's club them in one program and use them. This is the first function. And this is the second function, read integer. And this is printing the result. Okay. See now what I'll do. I'll use it in the main function. Integer a equal read integer. It will go there. Where's read integer? This is read integer. 1 second. Let me just put the charger. All right. So it will read the integer and return it to a. Integer b equal read integer. Also, I will call the function again to read another integer and return it to b. Then r equals sum of a and b. It will call the sum there. A will go to x and b will go to y. Okay, then return x plus y. It will return the sum to r. And print integer, I will call print integer and pass r, so it will return no values. It will just print the function. This is very important example, although it's very simple one, but it shows you how to use the functions or more than one function in the program. Now write a function to determine the maximum of two integers. I think we've gone through these things, and I solved it to you in two different ways, and I told you you can use any way, it's up to you. The lengthy way in which integer max of max 2, we called it, of integer x, integer y, integer max if x greater than y, then max equal x, else max equal y, return max. So in this case, I'll define a variable called max, mx. If x is greater, then I return it, and if it's less than, I return y. Maybe you ask, what if x equal y? If I send, for example, 5 and 5. In this case, no problem. Any one of them will work. Else will return y. So it will return the value 5. There's no difference between this 5 and this 5. I want to find the maximum between two numbers. All right. So integer main, integer a equal max of 17 and 8. So the max is 8. Now, the easier way, or not the easier, the more professional way in writing this, you can just write, no need to declare variable, no need to make it very lengthy. If x greater than y, return x. It will not come here. It will not continue execution. Just return x and that's it. Else return y. If this is not true, then return y. That's it. And you can use it in the same way. By the way, I want you to implement this code. I mean, these codes that I'm giving to you, because you will understand the way of how the function works. That's why please try to implement, not try, you need to implement it. Implement it and see the result and see how to you modify it sometimes. All right. Write a function that returns true if the given number is odd, otherwise it must return false. Use the function in the main function. All right. Don't look to the code. We've used this several times, and honestly, many times we've solved questions like this, and even I've given to you like a quiz, maybe, as I remember. Actually, odd and even, that means mod 2. Always, whenever you see odd and even, but not prime, be careful. When we're talking about prime, different story. So odd and even, that means mod 2. Okay, so the function will receive what? Receive an integer. Okay, process it and return either 0 or 1, true, false, or true. Correct? So in this case, the function needs to take parameters, and we need to pass a parameter to the function of type integer. The function will process it and then it returns. So it's of type for, which takes parameters and return values. Now the type is Boolean. Okay, of course you can put it integer and return 0 and 1, but it's better to use Boolean. I don't mind if someone say, okay, I prefer to use integer odd of integer x and then return 1 if true and else return 0. Okay, it's okay with me. But Boolean means I don't have here you can return 5, for example, or any other integer. Here all either true or false. So Boolean odd of integer, if x mod 2 equals 1, that means odd, right? Then return true, else return false. Now if I want you to write another function which is even of integer x. In this case, all what you want to do is to write if x mod 2 equals 0, return true, otherwise return false. Okay? Write a function that returns true if the given number is a prime. I want you to focus on this. This is very important. It includes a lot of ideas. First of all, the prime number, let's say 7. I need to test if 7 mod 2, okay, is equal. Of course, not only this, I have to divide it by 2. Now this is prime. Return false. I think there's an error in this program. See, actually, the prime number is the number that here I should be I, not 2. Okay, this is I. Okay, what does that mean? That means if I send 7, then I will test 7 mod 1. Is it equal to 0? Remember the mod 7 divided by 1 equals 7 and 0 over 1. Then it's 0. Okay, 7 mod 2 equals 0. No. 7 mod 3 equals 0. No. 7 mod 4 equals 0. No. 7 mod 5 equals 0. No. 7 mod 6 and 7 mod 7 equal 0. Yes. Then I have 2 cases only. Here all 0. Okay. I have 2. Then I will count how many times. Please correct this. This is x mod I, not mod 2. X mod, mod I, because I want to test. And I remember in the example, I don't know how comes that it became 2. So any number, let's say 4. 4 mod 1 equals 0. Yes. 4 mod 2 equals 0. Yes. 4 mod 3 equals 0. No. 4 mod 4 equals 0. Yes. So how many? 1, 2, and 3. So it's not prime. Okay. I'll repeat it again, but let me just first correct this. Okay. So here, just try it again. I'll repeat it again. Again, here I'm passing a parameter to this function. The function here I declared a counter. The counter starts from 0. Then I declared a variable I, which starts from 1 to x, the number. So if I send, for example, here 6, then the counter would be from I equal 1 to 6. Again, what I'll do, 6 mod 1, 6 mod 2, 6 mod 3, 6 mod 4, 6 mod 5, and 6 mod 6. Now, of course, let's see when it will be 0. 6 mod 1 is 0. 6 mod 2 is 0. 6 mod 3 is 0. 6 mod 4 is 2. 6 mod 5 is 1. 6 mod 6 is 0. Then I have here 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I have more than 2, okay, then it's not a prime number. If counter greater than 2 return false, it's not a prime number. Else return true. So in this case, it has to return false. Now let's take another example, which is 3. Mod 1, 0, right? 3. Mod 2, here I have 0. 3 mod 2 is 1. 3. Mod 3 equals 0. How many? 0. All right. 2. By the way, 2 is different story, but it works here. 2 is even number, but it's not. But it's a prime number, right? Now, 2 mod 1 equals 0. 2 mod 2 equals 0. That's it. So it's a prime number. I think that's it for today. Please go check them and read them carefully. We'll continue next lecture. Okay, I will repeat the rest of the functions. That's very important. We will. I think Sunday will be all right to have a quiz, or make it Thursday. So you will be ready more. I'm waiting for your answers. Either Sunday or Thursday.
Dr. Thursday.
Thursday, right? Yes, of course, Ghayta. Of course, Arabi. All right. You know, just because the lecture is standard lecture, I have to speak in English. But it's all right. When will be anything important, I'll explain.